We're happy you're here tonight. Supervisor Chris Barnett is not here, but we'll note that everyone else is present, and our supervisor is absent with notice. And I move to appoint Donnie Steele as chair of the meeting tonight.
Support.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending. So we have called the meeting to order, and so now we are going to start with our invocation and pledge. And tonight we have Shar Fallas from Kensington Church. And Shar, if you could please come on up, and then we'll start the pledge, and we'll use Matt Pfeiffer to start the pledge tonight.
We'll pray first.
Invocation first.
You ready? You
Shar?
first.
Me first? Okay. My name is Shar Fallas, and my husband and I have lived here since 1988. I'm deeply grateful to be living in this community and for the freedom to come and be allowed to open this meeting with prayer. As prayer is being eliminated in so many arenas, classrooms, sporting events, many town hall meetings, I applaud you for the acceptance of prayer before your meetings. Lord, you have picked these individuals to serve as advisors and leaders over this community. We ask that you guide them in their discussions and decisions as they work together for the common goal of enriching and safeguarding this township. Bless them with wisdom, discernment, and unity as they make decisions that will benefit all who live here. I would pray that even differences of opinions would be respectfully discussed and resolved for the good of the community. Lord, we ask that you bless and protect our fire and police departments that guard and protect us, that no harm should come to any of them as they perform their duties, that you would also bless our teachers, youth leaders, and pastors, and ask for your protection to be over every school, business, church, and home in this area, and all who reside therein. I would be amiss if we did not offer a special prayer for the Oxford High School, as they are returning to school after that horrific shooting. Comfort those students and teachers and heal them of their memories, and cover the school with peace, joy, and love. Lord, we cannot fix the problems of the whole world, but we can pray in particular for this wonderful community, and that we never forget to thank you for the blessings of living here and freedom that we have to meet publicly and honor you and seek your guidance for all of these issues at hand. Again, we thank you for this board and for their service to the community, and for this wonderful new community center which allows us to gather for many occasions. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I appreciate the prayer and the pledge, of course. And so we are now on number 3, which is our presentation of the on-TV food drive that is going, and it is taking place as of today, Monday. And Ian, if you'd like to step right up, introduce yourself, and then just tell me how you want me to scroll through your slides.
I'm so happy to be at this podium, this brand new shiny desk. It's great. Thank you for having me. It's been a while since ONTV, myself, or a staff member has been here to present, but I'm glad to do it tonight under happy circumstances. The ONTV food drive is underway, as you can see on the screens. It is our 12th annual. It's hard to believe it's been 12 years since we started this program with fish. The Oxford Orion Fish Food Pantry is a solid partner with ONTV and a great community steward for those who are in need for food and assistance. So our food drive goal this year is kind of a hybrid food collection donation drive. In the past, it's mainly been canned goods and all that good stuff. But due to the pandemic, in which we're hoping this goes away soon, that we can get back to collecting food again. But at the request of Fish, we are doing mainly a fund drive, and our goal is $5,000 plus. And we have so many corporate sponsors and others in the community helping us out, raising funds for fish as we start today. The 7th is we're doing a 5-day food drive, a telethon style presentation on ONTV. If you want to watch us, we're on Comcast Channel 10, AT&T U-verse Channel 99. And you can watch us on Roku now, our Cablecast app, and the ONTV Facebook page, and Amazon Fire, and all those other OTT apps you can find. We are there now. So with the food drive, we have a live segment, which is a little bit different this year. We are live 12 to 2 p.m. as kind of a lunch break for everybody to tune in on Facebook and on cable. And we had our first edition today, and it was fabulous. I would like to thank our sponsors, if you don't mind. I don't know how much time I have here, but I'd like to thank one guy who happens to be here. He was on the air with me. Matt Pfeiffer from Northern Wholesale Flooring is one of our sponsors, but he's more than that. He's a partner with ONTV and the community, as all of you know, out there really banging on doors when there's a need. And he came through for the food drive and for fish today, helping negotiate or secure some hefty donations to fish in the tune of about $1,000. Well, it was $1,000, $500 from Sagebrush Cantina, who we welcome aboard to the food drive for the first time, and Lifted Industrial Partners LLC, another $500 of community business. So great donations today to help us get to our goal. But we also like to thank Donnie Steele and her husband. They are also donated to the drive. M3 Investments, Corporate Benefit Solutions, Home Depot, Canterbury Village, who is with us for the first time this year and had the largest donation we've ever collected, a single donation of $1,000 for the food drive. So we thank Canterbury Village and the crew over there for their support of the food drive and ONTV. Skalnick Ford, a longtime supporter of the food drive, Waste Management came on board with us this year as a 2-day sponsor, which was fantastic. And North Oakland Democratic Club, Adobe Realtors, Shirley's Wigs, a local online wig retailer. So we're happy to have Shirley and her crew on board with us this year. Oat Soda is with us as well. And we can't forget Meyer. Meyer donated $900 and has been with the food drive for a number of years and is a huge supporter of what we do and of fish. And Kroger and Aldi also, two of our sponsors on the grocery side of things. We would like to remind everybody that you can go to our website, which is on your screen. It's orionontv.org, and you can click on our food drive button, and it takes you to this page and gives you all the information about what we have going on at the food drive, how you can donate. You can donate in person. You can bring your items right to the studio if you like. We're trying to fill our production van, which if you, I don't know how you could miss it. It's big, white, a lot of logos all over it, and we drive it all over town. So we're trying to fill it up with donations to help fill up the shelves. But talking to Michelle, the director over at Fish today, mainly it is funds. They need cash. And with the cost of food kind of heading north on us as inflation is kind of rearing its ugly head, cash is king right now for them, and it will help them much more than the physical donations at this time. So we're always looking for more donations all through the week. Our GoFundMe account will be active through the end of business, which is 9 p.m. on Friday night when it shuts down. And we just hope that you guys can, Penny, thank you for taking a tub, for collecting physical donations on our behalf. And I can't forget the high school. Roger Smith and the broadcasting students, again, are with us, working hand in hand, collecting donations from the students at the Lake Orion High School. And so far, we're on our way to having 2 large tubs of donations ready to be collected this week. If you have any questions for me or anything like that.
Anybody have any questions for Ian this time?
If you tune in at noon Wednesday, you're going to see me try to play guitar for the first time in public live on TV. I think it's comedy day. I think that's why we scheduled it. But yeah, all day at 12 we have new features. So tune in and donate.
Thanks, Ian.
Thank you,
I appreciate it. It's a great cause. Okay.
Matt, want to say something?
Matt, did you want to say anything?
Matt?
Matt Pfeiffer, did you want to say anything at this time with this donation? No? Okay. Okay, we're moving right along. And we are on the approval of the bills. Do we have a motion?
Madam Chairman,
Mr. Flood?
I move to approve the February 7, 2022 bills, invoice disbursement of $1,329,597.76, and total payroll of $591,800.99 for a grand total disbursement of $1,921,398.75.
Support.
Support by Urbanowski. Any comments on the bills? I have a couple comments. One, we paid Oakland County for our dispatch and parole. We had two bills this month for Oakland County Sheriff's Department at $893,000. We also contributed to NODA, which is our North Oakland Transportation Authority, for $59,000 towards our portion of that great service. Paint Creek Trail, we paid our annual operating and patrol of $20,000. Our SEMCOG, which is our membership with Southeastern Macomb Organization Government, for $4,900. And then we replaced the carpet in Fire Station 2 and 4 for $24,000. Those are just some of the bigger bills this run. So we have a motion, comments, any questions? If not, Penny, if you could call the roll, please.
Dalrymple?
Yes.
Flood?
Yes.
Urbanowski?
Yes.
Schultz, yes. Steele?
Yes.
Ernie?
Yes.
Awesome, we've paid the bills. Okay, now we are on number 5, which is our public comment, 3 minutes or less for item that may not be on the board, on the agenda. This would be the time to come up and make a public comment. Okay, nobody running up here. So we'll move right along to approval of the agenda. And Penny, if you have a couple changes.
Thank you. We have added under consent from Aaron Watley, Parks and Recreation Director, a request to schedule a public hearing for the MNRTF grant. Board members, you have that in your packet. And we also have corrected minutes, which Trustee Flood will talk to us about those when we get to that portion. It's for the regular meeting of January 18th. And in addition, thank you for talking with us and answering some questions, Tammy Gerling and also David Goodlow. But I would like to bring down item number 7J, Canterbury Village, and put that into pending 8D. Thank you.
Okay, so we have an additional item for the shared public hearing, which would be consent agenda. Now it will be 7K. And then it's just the changes on the tuition reimbursement. I don't know if everybody saw that correction as well of, let's see if it's that one. We had the wrong person in there, and we made sure that it was Tyler versus Tandem. So those were the changes on that. Okay, so now we have an agenda. Do we have any other comments or questions? Mike, go ahead.
Madam Chairman, I would move to approve the agenda as amended.
Support.
Okay. Questions on the motion? Questions from the audience? None from neither. So we have an agenda, and with a couple changes, we can move forward with a roll call, please.
Urbanowski?
Yes.
Schultz, yes. Steele?
Yes.
Ernie?
Yes.
Dalrymple?
Yes.
Flood?
Yes.
Okay. Which leads us to number 7, which is our consent agenda, which includes, let me just get to the right page. Bear with me. Okay, there we are. So our consent agenda includes the minutes of the public hearing of January 18th, the minutes of our regular meeting, also January 18th. The public hearing and then the regular meeting. C is a resolution establishing polling locations. D, Gulfview Drive private road maintenance SAD. Number 2, authorizing to move forward with cost estimate. Then we have E, which is our Lake Orion Water Quality Control SAD. Number 2, authorized for our cost estimate. Fire Department Command Vehicle Purchase. Schedule a board workshop on February 22nd to discuss ARPA. Storm Drainage Facility Maintenance Easement Agreement. That is with the Tommy's Car Wash. And then we have the Silver Bell and M24 Sewer Main Emergency Repair. And we have the tuition reimbursement changes, and we have the request to schedule the public hearing on Charity Park. So.
Madam Chair, I have 2 corrections to make on the approving the regular minutes for January 18th, and it would be under the pending business when we did the motions for the General Motors tax abatement, and also under the no-has interlocal. We need to strike out some text that was moved by Clerk Schultz, seconded by Trustee Flood to approve the consent agenda as amended. Strike that. And in the second one, the same thing, moved by Trustee Flood, seconded by Trustee Dalrymple to approve the consent agenda as amended. Those 2 sentences to be stricken out of those approved motions.
Got that, Penny?
I do.
Sometimes this happens
Thank you.
And then I just wanted to show a picture.
when the persons are doing all this. It's our job to make sure they're done right. That's it.
Thank you, Mike. Any comments on any of the other things on the consent agenda, either by our board?
I'd like to make one comment on the Silver Bell and M24 sewer main emergency repair.
Go ahead, Mike.
I want to thank our sewer department, Mr. Stout, and also Mr. Stevens, OHM, for being proactive on preventing these catastrophes so they don't happen. And if you notice, that's a $500,000 repair on just that little piece of sewage line in there. So, thank you very much. Good job.
Okay, I'm gonna roll back there. Anybody else have any comments? I just did show a picture of the new truck that we are gonna vote on for the fire. Chief, do you have any comments on that at all while I have it up? Not really? Yes. Okay. Any other questions? Any questions from the audience or the public? If not, if we could have a roll call on the consent agenda as, do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'll make the motion to
Thank you.
approve the consent agenda as amended, since we struck them out of the other 2 minutes.
Support.
Okay. Now we have any questions on the motion? If not, roll call, please. Ms. Schultz.
Schultz, yes. Steele?
Yes?
Ernie?
Yes.
Dalrymple?
Yes.
Flood?
Yes.
Urbanowski?
Yes.
Steele?
Yes. Okay. Which leads us to number 8 and 8A, which is the Marcia Consent Judgment Lapeer Road. And I would, do you want to take this one? Okay, go ahead.
So I'll go ahead and get started on this. And the request before the board, as made by the attorney representing the successors in interest to the property, is to consider amending the Marcia consent judgment dated November 6th, 2000. The attorney representing the successors in interest to the property, approximately 14 acres, located on the west side of M24, north of Indianwood Road, abutting the north property line of St. Joseph's Church, which surrounds the existing Brett Family Care Chiropractic Clinic, have requested the Board of Trustees consider amending the existing Marcia consent judgment dated November 6, 2000. A consent judgment may only be amended by the Board of Trustees. You have the attorney opinion for additional information on the process to amend the consent judgment. Should the board agree to consider amending the consent judgment as proposed by the applicant, the board should approve this item using the recommended motion provided below. If the board is not interested in considering this action, we won't need to take any action tonight. So what the board has before them, just by way of explanation, is a letter from the attorney. It's a confidential letter submitted, and it's January 26, 2022, that does outline the process. We have a memorandum that was submitted from Dykema, proposed amendment to this consent judgment. They asked the boards to consider allowing them to permit these changes, and they will also go into more detail on that. We also have the original consent judgment that we referenced. And you have the legal description, which we're looking at, which is approximately 14 acres. There's a letter submitted to myself January 25th. They wanted the matter placed on this board meeting tonight. And so after discussion, I'm prepared to make a motion if the board should choose to do so.
Thank you, Penny, for getting us started. Let's see, do we have the, I guess it would be applicant here tonight? If you would like to maybe make a couple comments and maybe go over some of the slides that we have just to explain it a little bit better. And I don't know which one you want me to start with. And then if we could have Dan talk about his letter as well too, because I think it's old and confusing and new all at the same time.
Thank you. My name's Alan Green, and I'm the attorney that wrote the letter that you have. I do want to say this is the first time I've been to your new offices, and they are awesome. So congratulations. I forgot that you were doing it, and I came in here and I was just sort of blown away. So it's wonderful. So the reason I'm here as an attorney doing this is that if it ever gets to the point of working on an amendment to the consent judgment, I'm the one that's going to be working with Mr. Kelly to provide the actual document that would be, we would reach an agreement on. But as an amendment to a consent judgment, this is something that can only be agreed by the township board and by the property owner, the party to the consent judgment. So this has to be a collaborative effort. It has to be something, if it's going to be done, that both sides agree that it makes sense and to work out the terms and conditions of that. We're not asking you tonight to actually approve an amendment to the consent judgment. We're not asking you to approve a plan. And we gave you a concept plan which just sort of shows what the property can bear with respect to the multifamily. But the existing consent judgment calls for the property to be developed as OP1. So it's primarily office uses. There are some industrial and high-tech and even some, commercial retail uses that go in that district. I have no knowledge about the original consent judgment, how it came about, what the dispute was. We have no information on that. We weren't involved in that. I did try to find if there was any record on this, and I do know the engineer that works on it, and I contacted him, Mr. Kianecki, and he said he destroyed his files. So I don't even really have a plan as to what's going to be developed back in 2020. The consent judgment that's recorded does not actually attach the plans as exhibits. It references it. You might have seen this, and you're probably through it. Maybe you have it, but it's not there. So we don't even know. I don't even know what the business plan was back then. The property is somewhat unique, as we indicated. It surrounds the veterinary clinic and surrounds the Brett residence, which is a family residence. It also abuts single-family homes, many of which are lakefront homes, and that's a really important issue. It is located near 2 religious institutions and senior housing. And what we're asking for is that the board consider allowing an amendment to the consent judgment to allow a multifamily residential use from the business uses that are there. Right now, the property is owned by a bank. It was foreclosed upon. There was a mortgage foreclosure about 10 years ago, so don't know the details of that. The bank has owned it for 10 years. They've tried to market it. There's really been no market for the business uses that the consent judgment provides for right now. And it's probably going to be worse today because of COVID. And, the office market today is very difficult. I know a lot of businesses with remote work, like my law firm is one, we're looking to reduce our office presence rather than expand it. So a residential use is a typical transitional use from a highway or, heavy road corridor to single-family residential, maybe even more so than the business uses that were there. Based upon the uses around us, a residential use may be appropriate. It seems very appropriate. I can tell you, and you probably know this as well, the demand for residential, multifamily residential use, any residential use, is really strong today. We can't build enough. It's a very difficult process. The rental market's very strong. Millennials, my kids, You know, they have a different view of homeownership versus rental. And so it's not, today it's essentially a different lifestyle choice with regard to that. Single-family homes are terribly expensive. Even starter homes, to the extent they build new homes, almost puts it out of the market for young people. So there's a strong market for this, but on the other hand, it's still a challenge, which is why a lot of places aren't getting built. You guys know that construction costs are extremely high today, both labor and material, which is a challenge. This site poses a bit of a challenge, you know, because it's got a lot of cuts and fills that are going to have to take place, a lot of soil balancing. It's going to be very expensive on the site. There's going to be utility work. We want to have amenities like a pool and a clubhouse for whatever gets built there. We need to deal with road access to the neighbors. One of the things that's really odd about this whole area and the process is the way the access to the single-family residential works. Right now, it appears that several of the houses, you know, have to go through the veterinary clinic actually to get access. So there's no question that this whole process is going to involve a collaborative effort with our neighbors. I mean, we're going to have to work with our neighbors on things like, you know, access, relocating access, provision of access, setbacks, screening, landscaping, and all sorts of issues. So what we're really asking in this regard is that if this board were inclined to think that a multifamily residential use might be an appropriate use, that we would ask that you send this matter to the Planning Commission, you know, with directions to the staff, your professional staff, to start a process to look at it so they can make a recommendation. We can work with them, come up with a plan that everybody can live with, hopefully, if it comes to that, and then come back to the board, you know, actually with a recommendation and a plan, and hopefully support of our neighbors with respect to that, because I think that's important too. We're going to be proposing to relocate access drives and things like that, so we really need their support. So that's sort of a summary of where we're at in this regard. So again, only asking for you to make the decision as to whether you think a residential use might be appropriate. You're not bound by it. You know, it's your decision. You come back to it. And if you had any comments, like, you know, what would you like to see? I mean, if it went back and we were to work on the plans and work with the Planning Commission, do you have any thoughts about, you know, the features of such a development? What are the concerns you have about such a development in this location that we could address when we go through and work on more detailed plans, that sort of thing?
That's a nice
Thank you.
summary. And if anybody's unclear, this property is located north of St. Joe's Church on the west side of Lapeer Road. So that's where this property is, yes.
Yeah. And one more point, we do have, in order to clear up the issue with the Bretts being sort of an island out there with a single-family residential home, we do have an agreement to acquire the Brett property as part of the project as well. So just want to point that out.
And I think I might understand that they are part of the consent judgment as well. That's what I understand, but maybe Mr. Kelly can, because I thought that their property was also included on that consent judgment, and so whatever happens has to happen to all of it, so.
Right.
So,
Is that the
that's
case?
good.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, okay, we weren't really sure in
It's
that
our
regard.
understanding.
Okay, well, that's fine. We're okay with that. That's
Well,
good.
they're probably not, but you are.
No,
It
no,
makes it
no.
harder for them to sell it, that's.
No,
it's-
they want, yeah, no,
Yeah.
we've got an agreement to buy the property,
good.
so I think
Appreciate
hopefully they're
that.
in support of this then.
And I do know it's a very, very, very challenging parcel. I just know that it's even hard to even find those houses and how to even get back to them. So, you know, it would be nice to get this cleaned up. So Dan, if you could just kind of just go over the letter in which you've submitted as well too, and.
Sure. I think Alan has covered it. That was a good summary. It is unique in the sense that the Bretts are now on board with this project. We've had a number of developers come forward on this particular property over the 15 years I've been here, and even before that, none of which have gone to a final development stage. So what's being presented to the board today is a multifamily. I just want to make sure that the board understands it's a consent judgment, so you have a lot of flexibility. You can order it back to the Planning Commission. You could order it back for a preliminary meeting with our consultants. bring it back to the board at any stage, and you're not bound by anything that's being presented to you. I think what the attorney, Mr. Green, for the developer is suggesting is that, listen, if you have no interest in multifamily, because it's currently zoned under this, effectively under the consent judgment as office, if you have no interest in multifamily and will never approve it, let's not waste anybody's time. I think that, in summary, that's what's being presented to you. In terms of the final site plan and what's being proposed and the numbers, that's still within the board's control. My suggestion is that we refer it back to the planning department, number one, so that we have a preliminary review by the fire, planner, and engineers. And then if we need to go to the planning commission on some more detail, we can do that as well. So that's my recommendation.
So so conceptually, we can say this might be a good project. However, we don't have to approve to open up the consent amendment right now. We can say, let the planning commission make their comments before we agree to opening up the consent judgment? Or do we
Yes.
have to say we agree to the opening it up and then go to the planning commission?
No, you don't have to agree to open it up. You could set out a process, and if the applicant wants to go through that process, and what I mean by that is go through the planning commission stages and the costs that incur, and then it could be brought back to you. If we're in agreement with it, only the board can amend that consent judgment. You can do it with a recommendation from the planning commission. You don't necessarily have to have that recommendation. It's a good idea so that we kind of mirror our ordinances and try to be consistent with how a normal project would be approved. But certainly you'll get the input from the consultants.
Penny?
Thank you, Donnie. I'd like to make the motion per how it's been written, and then it gets to the department that can get all of the comments back from our consultants before we move back to the planning commission, and then see it back before the board with your comments to see if we want to move any further. Would that be appropriate?
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay, I move to refer the request to amend the MARSA consent judgment dated November 6, 2000 to the Township Planning and Zoning Department for the purposes of receiving input from the relevant township departments and the appropriate township consultants, and when satisfied sufficient information and detail has been provided, bring the proposed consent judgment amendments back to the township board for consideration of approval, denial, or further action as deemed appropriate.
I'll support the motion with a comment.
Go ahead, Mike.
My comment is I'm glad to hear discussing the planning commission involvement in this. I don't like this township board having to take on a consent agreement and then have to do the planning commission's job. That's not what us elected officials are experts at. One thing I like to do too is find out what the master plan proposal for that area is, what the future land use, and that's the things that we'll go through. Tammy will take care of through the planning and zoning department. And, but I have no problem bringing this back and discussing it. Been out there, 22 years now almost? Yeah. So that's why I'm in favor of it.
Go ahead, Dan.
Just one thing, Ms. Gerling pointed out to me we should add a fee to that for the consultant's review, which in this case should be the engineers and the planner.
So
That'd be the normal fee charged by the planning commission.
So I will amend the motion to include the normal fees will be provided for the reviews.
In my support.
Brian?
Dan, is this the appropriate time to express my concern against something like this?
Sure, you're free to do that. I think that's what they want to hear.
Okay.
To be honest with you.
All right, so I didn't, with everything else said, but so,
Keeping an open mind, though.
of course,
All right.
I'm not against development, but what I think we all need to keep a firm gaze on as we approve these things and things that we can get from the get-go like this, because some developments that we are out of our hands. We have a growing problem with first responders and being able to cover all of these things that we are continuously developing. There are so many things in the pipeline now that we just really need to think. I'm not saying they can't do the job. I'm concerned that down the road with a nationwide shortage of paramedics, and fire personnel and police officers. We're getting very big, very fast, and I'm obviously concerned with my, relationship with both departments and hearing, that when there is something like this that we can get from the ground level, we really need to discuss this. So that's my concern. Again, it's not against development, it's not against progress. It is, though, making sure we have the appropriate first responders on staff to be able to accommodate all the things that we have in the pipeline. And I don't see that conversation happening. So I'm starting it now.
Penny?
Should the motion also include that in the review? Or do we wait till it comes back to the board? We have a discussion at that time and then further input is given.
Well, typically at your prelims, you always have a fire input. So we'll have some input from fire. I don't know if it'll specifically address your concerns, but it'll be some input for the board.
Right. Well, I mean, to his point, I mean, obviously they're always involved, but I'm not as concerned as, can we get the engine in? Do we have someone that's driving the engine? That's why it's the personnel.
Yeah.
And not their skill set, it's just we need more. And that's not an Orion problem, that's a nationwide problem.
And I appreciate your comments because I didn't realize that we could say, okay, let's recommend this to go to the planning commission first, let them have all their consultants and weigh in and have a meeting, multiple meetings about this project there and the volume of it, because the way that this is proposed right now, it's a 200 and I think 40 unit development, which I think is a big, 246, which is a big element right there. And that would be my concern, is that the density is so extreme that maybe it would be nice to have the planning commission review it, because we've had a lot of these come down the line, like what Brian had said, and some of them have been denied because the density is so large, and maybe if we know what we're looking at up front, then we can say maybe we can move forward. That was what my thought was. I don't know, Kim, did you have?
Yeah, I just, for those of you out there, I do sit on the planning commission, and we have seen a lot of multifamily developments lately. One just last week that was, actually, Donnie, can you go back to that?
Oh, that picture with the.
Yeah,
Yeah,
is
okay.
this a picture of the proposed
These
elevation?
were not in the board packet, these were in the extras, and so you guys might have missed them because they didn't, that somebody had given us to them later in the day, so that's why. You've probably seen them for the first time.
Okay, yeah, so just a couple things that I can say that we took away from other multifamily developments that were really important to the Planning Commission. Number one is too much density is, we're looking not to jam a ton of people into a small space. And that number is really, really high, and I think it's 15 acres. And that's a 3-story building. Is that a 3-story building that I see? Because, yeah, that's, we recommended a denial for a 3-story building recently. So I don't think that a 3-story building would be looked upon favorably. And the density would be an issue. Traffic is also a big thing, a big concern. And yes, we do talk about services. We talk about safety and public services. And if I remember correctly, Trustee Bernie, that you said that the downtown fire station is the busiest one, and this is the closest to that. So we are being very cognizant of how many people are being, are in one area and putting a strain on our services. The other thing is that we are a tree city, and we are very, very concerned about continuing to cut down too many, trees. I'm looking at the overview here. There's some spaces that don't have a lot of trees, but in the consent judgment, there was some verbiage about conservation easements and buffering, and I don't know, I can't figure out, it said the northeast corner, but now it looks like that's gonna be a retention basin, so, you know, I'm not sure what that, not knowing what was involved in that consent judgment and the, you know, the things that were talked about, I'm going to assume, because there's a conservation easement and a lot of verbiage about it, that it was important to have a lot of space between whatever was going to go there and the people that live behind. We're asking for developments to be really good neighbors. If they're gonna, you know, if, we do need to find middle housing. You know, attainable housing for people in the middle, for young families, for, you know, the folks that are coming in, or multiple, you know, businesses that are gonna be joining us. We do need to have that inventory for those people, but we have to make sure that we're being very good neighbors to the people that have been here for a long time, and that have certain expectations for privacy, which is why the 3-story thing was not really favorable. Anyway, just be, you know, really aware of those kinds of things.
Thanks, Kim. Any other board member comments? Go ahead, Mike.
Dan, basically, it's going to be up to this township board whether or not they want to rezone that property.
That's right.
I mean, that's the number one thing. If it doesn't get rezoned, we wouldn't be discussing about this.
Yes, that's right.
That'd be a decision we're going to have to make once we get all this data and detail back to us.
Right, right,
I want to make sure the public knows nothing's changed tonight.
right. So, and I think the way the motion, as I understand the motion is read, there'll be a preliminary review by the consultants, paid for by the developer, but it will be before there's any kind of final determination. We might have some changes to the plan, the developer might work on that plan, but it's going to come back to the board even before it's sent to the planning commission. That's how the motion is read. So that is one step at a time, so that the developer doesn't spend a lot of money if the board's not interested in moving forward. I think that's fair to both sides.
Thank you.
Any?
I too share the density concern, but I believe that'll come up in the reviews.
Yep.
Okay, and any other comments at the board level? Okay. I know we have some audience here tonight that might want to weigh in on some of this discussion, and I'm going to open it up to you at this time. So if you could come to the podium and say your name and your address, and if you could share your comments, please.
Good evening. My name is Joseph McDaniel. My wife Eugenia and I live in 180 Iroquois Drive. That's the house there that's like a triangle with a bent tip, right there. We've lived there since I came back from Afghanistan in 2012, and we bought the house that December and moved in 2013. We've been living here ever since. We personally are against this MARSA development judgment, consent judgment that might allow Mr. Cavalieri to build this apartment complex. According to the paperwork there, it consists of 246 residential units. That's, I think, 104 one-bedrooms, 104 two-bedrooms, and 14 townhomes, all rental properties. And I understand that people need a place to live. Houses are hot, apartments are hot. My son lives in Florida, and his rent just went up $200 in an apartment. But he lives in a whole row of apartments. He doesn't live next to single-family homes. We have beautiful single-family homes, and we'd like to keep our neighborhood like it is now. All I'm asking is that the board, and I've heard a lot of good points here by Mr. Barney, Mr. Budd, Ms. Urbanowski over on this side as well, that you're going to take your time and you're going to look at it, and I think that's a great idea. What I would like, what I'm going to do is extend an invitation to each and every one of you to come to our neighborhood, stand in our front yards, and look at where they want to put 3-story apartment complexes, about 200 feet from our front yards. One of my neighbors, furthest to the east there, they want to put a dog park or a catty corner across from him and a swimming pool. They want to have 1.7 parking lots per unit. That's about 400, a little over 400 parking units. When you come to, if you do come to our neighborhood, and I hope you do, And you look out there, you'll see beautiful native Michigan spruce, birches, elms, oaks, maples, flowering bushes, flowers. And if you walk in that property, you might see our resident fox family, the deer, the rabbits, the squirrels, and you'll hear the quiet. Now imagine there's 500 people, 400 cars, hundreds of dogs, the noise, the congestion, the traffic. Not to mention, how do we handle the people who are going to trespass who want to get to the lake? You talk about firemen and policemen. You know, in the local newspaper just a few days ago, and it's also in your 150-page document here, in one of the local apartment complexes, there were 5 car break-ins in one day at the Indian Lake Village Apartments. In one day. I don't even know how many apartments they have there. Before you make any decisions, I would ask that you also ask the Sheriff's Department or whoever compiles crime statistics for you to how many crimes have been committed in our neighborhood in the last 22 years, and how many crimes have been committed at a similar type of apartment complex or in the houses surrounding them. You know, when you go home to your houses and when you get out of bed tomorrow and stand out in your front yard, try and imagine what it would be like to look across your street or into your neighborhood 200 feet and see that 3-story apartment complex or even a 2-story apartment complex. How you would feel and how your neighbors would feel. That's how we feel. You know, when the developer, Mr. Cavalieri, goes home to his home in Grosse Pointe Shores, to his house that's worth well over $1 million, and all of his neighbors' houses are worth over $1 million. Can you imagine what the response would be if he was to his neighbors and say, I want to put in a 253 apartment complex 200 feet from your house? They wouldn't allow it. So I'm asking you, please don't even consider this. Put in houses, put in single-family houses similar to what we have. And if someone says, well, it's right next to Lapeer and it's a busy road, you can drive down Adams Road or Rochester Road or DeQuinder Road or Telegraph or Woodford, and you're going to see huge houses along those roads. People will live in a place like Lake Orion who are living as a vacation, if you let them. I guess that's all I have. Anybody have any question for me?
Thank you for your comments. Okay, if anybody else would like to come up, if you would come to the microphone, state your name, your address, and 3 minutes or less is encouraged.
I won't probably be that long. I'm Mac's neighbor, so I'm Kevin Vernagas, and I live at 200 Iroquois Drive, so it's just to the left of his on the court, and I'm also on the lake. I would ask, and I've been there 10 years, so I've been about as long as Mac with my wife and my 3 kids. I've been a resident of Lake Orion Township for about 25 years of my life, so I grew up here, left for a bit, and came back. I would ask that as you consider development of this property, you consider the current residents that are there, many that have been there much longer than I have. And I can't say it as well as Mac did, but if you're going to develop it in likeness to, in the manner of the homes that are currently there. So that means single-family, large property homes. That maintains the manner of life of which we're accustomed to. It maintains the value of our properties. And the properties you would put in there, if you were doing like-minded homes, would be, they'd maintain their property values. It'd be a good place to be. If that's not possible, any other development you would take on there, I would ask that you, again, consider our manner of living and quality of life that we currently have, okay? And that means, things like buffers. I think someone mentioned in the previous consent judgment, there were things like 25-foot buffers along the west edge. There were 10-foot along Iroquois Drive. There was a call out for which trees and vegetation would stay. And there was a recognition that that is a beautiful piece of property with many mature, trees on that property. The current development that I see has none of those features called out. It's almost like there's been no consideration for those of us that live in that area and live for a good period of time. It seems to, it's more about putting as many properties as they can possibly fit in as small an area as possible. So I would ask you that you consider all that as you move forward with considering development of this property. And like Mac, I would say, you know, put yourself in our shoes and the quality of life we've had and what brought a lot of us to where we're at there today. Put yourself in our shoes and see how you would feel. And take that into mind as you make this decision. You know, I consider the board, you basically represent us. I think that's what you're here for, and so I would ask that you take that into account as you make this decision. Very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? This would be your opportunity. Now I'm going to start timing everybody. As soon as I get my friends up here. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Few new faces for me. But I'm speaking a little bit on.
Sorry, could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, I would. Kathleen Sanchez. I'm with Real Estate One. I'm the realtor that has the property listed for sale for the Bretts. My history with them is just a 4-year history. I believe it goes back much further with Dan and Tammy than that. During the 4 years that I've represented the Bretts and the ability to move them forward to capture a sale on their property, a lot of what's come across, obviously, is with the zoning of business opportunity. It can no longer be residential. So Mary and Mark Brett are living in a 4,000 square foot, 100-year-old home that they can't sell residentially. Their options are really just to sell for what is currently zoned, which is business opportunity. We've had numerous proposals come through during these 4 years, and they've all been for uses outside of that basic business opportunity. They've been for a skilled nursing facility, for an emergency room, and ER, and I understand that at that point, the surrounding residents were concerned as well about the noise factor of ambulances and that going on 24 hours a day. So there's been a great deal of interest in this property throughout those 4 years. There has not once been a developer that's come forward in that time who has said, I'm willing to tackle the consent judgment. The whole secret to anything that would allow this property to go forward is modifying the consent judgment in some form. And there has been no one in all of the history, my 4 years, I don't know if Dan's is further, that anybody has ever been willing to jump in and say, I'll help modify that consent judgment to make this property developable in some fashion. Mark and Mary Brett have been wanting to move from that property for the last 6 or 7 years and get forward with their life into a property, just as we're hearing, is going to suit their lifestyle much better than a 4,000 square foot, 100-year-old home. They're unable to do that. They have been unable to sell that property, and every step of the way has been stopped at the municipality level because of the consent judgment. I'm sure Tammy has fielded a number of calls throughout the years, and it's always the consent judgment won't allow anything to take place without a modification. That's the reason why we really need, I mean, we desperately need you as a board to at least allow this discussion to modify the consent judgment to take place. You know, the development has a lot of twists and turns that can be worked out along the way, but step one is the consent judgment, and that's what we need as a board from you, is to say, let's look at modifying it so that we're not holding people hostage. I see your clock going, Donnie, and I'll let Mary talk.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. I'm Mary Brett, and my husband, Dr. Mark Brett's here. We own 857 North Lapeer Road property. Dr. Brett purchased the property in 1981, and it was chiropractic family care until he retired over 3 years ago. He served the community for over 50 years. In planning our next step of life, retirement, we need to downsize and live somewhere with less maintenance. The building is on the property is almost 4,600 square feet and over 100 years old, requiring a lot of maintenance. In this market, we are selling and competing with newer buildings.
in the area for those who may want to use it for a business professional location. Over the last 6 years, we've entered into 6 purchase agreements. The current purchase agreement, number 6, has a buyer and a developer willing to work at clearing the consent judgment on the property. We are grateful. If you review the consent judgment on file at the township, I actually went to the Oakland County Court and copied it and gave a copy to Tammy Gerling, and I have a copy at home. If you'd like to look at it, you will see that Dr. Brett, and at that time I wasn't married to him, but at that time, he was never a part of any of the meetings or was aware of that consent judgment on our property. And so we wonder how a consent judgment could be approved on our property without any attendance of meetings, being notified, or signing off, or any approvals. The consent judgment was done by someone who has since passed away and never did what was proposed anyway. We need the consent judgment removed for this property as it's causing a hindrance to all involved. And we ask that you please approve the removal of the consent judgment. And thank you for your consideration.
Thanks, Mary. Okay, do we have anybody else? This would be your turn.
I will be fast.
Am I doing this right, Dan?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Just I'm kind of new at this, everyone.
Okay,
So,
I'm going to
okay.
take my mask off, but don't be scared. I'm Eugenia McDaniel. You heard from my husband. One other option, rather than building all these bazillions of apartments or even building homes like we have, is for the township to buy the land, give the bank a credit of some kind. I don't know if somebody can do that magic and they can write it off or whatever. That's something worth looking into, and maybe developing a little park there. We don't have any parks in our area. There's a path going one way along Lake Orion along Lapeer Road when they fixed the road, but they didn't do the path on the other side. So it would be nice if they continued that path and maybe even put like a fitness trail in that area, because that's a great path for walking and biking, and you see bikers, but then they have to stop by us and cross the road, which is Lapeer Road, which is a big deal. So that's another option for this property, and we could make everybody happy and have a park, green, there's trees, it's beautiful, and we don't have to worry about crime and all that other stuff.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Majeski. I live at 835 North Lapeer Road, which is next to where the Bernagisses live. Kevin spoke. We do have to get into the property through the veterinary hospital parking lot, and it goes around to our house. I've lived in Lake Orion for many years. We used to live on Heights Road across from the lake. We lived next to apartment buildings, and we were right on the corner by the apartment buildings on Heights Road, and it was very noisy. I'm a nurse. I worked midnights, and I had to sleep during the day, but I know that apartment buildings are noisy, and this property, which we didn't know existed when we first found it, it's where Dr. Marcia used to live apparently. It was very quiet, and that's what we liked, and it was not a noisy lake, which is what we also like, because Lake Orion is a party lake, which is for people who love, you know, the fast-moving boats and things, but this one has just smaller, no-wake boats. We have kayaks. There's an island that is protected, I believe, because of some birds that nest there. And I'm concerned about just the environment, what it will be. So I'd like that taken into consideration when the board discusses this.
Thank you.
Mike Majeski, 835 North Lapeer Road. That was my wife that was here. She kind of stole my thunder on some of it. We did live next to the apartments. We had to deal with a lot of, but when we moved into that house, we knew the apartments were there. this one seems like a different setup. I also wanted to point out, just a real quick note, that when we do walk along that trail, we go up to the Memory Care Center. On the corner of the proposed development is the sign for Orion Township that says, "Where living is a vacation." And then there's all the trees. And what looks like is gonna happen is the trees are gonna get knocked down, so I don't know if the sign is gonna go with it or not. But that's the kind of thing that we're kind of concerned with. Obviously, I appreciate you guys' hard work here. I feel sorry for the Bretts having to sell. I'm sure you'll work out something. I appreciate you taking us into consideration, speaking before that we even came up on trying to be good neighbors and stuff like that. So I just want to say thanks for that as well. But think long and hard on this. We've heard things too about apartments actually raising the values of properties, and I can't think of anyone that I've talked to about that that says that's actually a thing. So we are concerned with that as well, and want to make sure that you keep all that in mind. And I know they covered this mostly already. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello,
Hello.
Paul Berishai at the 140 Iroquois, and my brother.
Brothers.
As you know, we the owners of 140. We built it ourselves 20 years ago? 2003, 20 years ago. We love the neighborhood. Can't say anything bad about it since we moved here. As most of my neighbors have pointed out, they will never be the same. You put in 200, let's just say multifamily use. I know the place got to get developed. I don't mind single-family homes. I'm all for it. Apartments, it's not going to be the same. I have two old folks live with me. They walk every day that street. It's safe. I had my dad, sorry, I get nervous. I had my dad driving on Lapeer. He got hit by a car. So he feels safe in that street. Not that that has to, I'm just telling you what is when you bring 246 units, that's 500 cars. There's not 9 kids who live in there. As my neighbor, they play all day outside. That will never happen again. But it's not going to happen at the same rate as now. I'm just saying, consider us as neighbors. Take an effect that nothing will be the same. As Max said, the crime, everything behind it, let's come to an understanding, at least zone it, but single-family homes, not apartments, especially 3 stories. It's not for there. So I appreciate it. I would love if you guys, because it's like you guys are here to represent us, take our thoughts about this too. The peace and the quiet, it's just nothing will be the same anymore. And I love what happened here is that, I don't know if you ever guys came from north to come to Lake Orion. It says a sign, welcome to Lake Orion, where they live in its vacation. Maybe for those homes, won't be the same. So thank you everything, but consider us.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Berishai. It's my brother. We built that house in 2003, so we lived together, parents. So it was about 14 of us in one house. So this was a dream home. I'm actually on both sides, because I'm an apartment owner myself and builder. When I look at a property to build apartments, first of all, I do, which in respect of Kim, and he said a little bit about, nobody said nothing about the neighbors. That's the first thing we ask in the city. What do the neighbors feel like about this? And none of you talked about it except Romanowski, and he said about the crime rate, which apartments do bring the rate of the crime up. A lot higher than, like right now, there's 0 crime in that street. And I guarantee you, my life, that the minute you bring that, I'm not saying that the developer, because I'm a developer myself, is going to bring bad people here. That's not his intention. His intention, in a business point of view, he wants to make money. Simple as that. Obviously, he met with all the neighbors. They told him what they think. They don't want it. He's still going forward. To me, as a developer, he doesn't care about what they said. He wants to make money. Simple as that. So, by not asking them, well, what the neighbor's going to go, we come to you, because you represent us. And we should do the prayer that I said earlier about the neighbors, about the peace, because bringing this right here, I guarantee you, like I said, the crime rate in those houses, it's not like the tenants, it's the tenants who they're going to bring there, their friend.
And I'm not gonna say it's gonna happen every day, but it's gonna happen enough to make these people move, sell their house, and then even the house, whoever said the value of the houses go up with the apartments, not in this country. It goes down. Because you got, even if it's 100 units, you got 400 cars in and out of that street. 4-year-old kid, 5-year-old kid, 6-year-old, which they all have, they can't walk no more to the bus stop. You got 400, God knows who's there. Saying they don't feel safe. Put yourself in their shoes. Would you want to put 250 apartments right in front of your houses? Would any one of you do? I mean, if you look at a business deal that you want to collect money and tax revenue, yes. But for their sake, no. Not all money is good money. And this one is not good money. Put the same houses that they have. I mean, like our neighbor said, right on Telegraph and Square, you got a 10,000 square foot right on Telegraph. Why can't, I mean, I'm not saying they're going to put 10,000 square foot. They can put a 2,000-3,000 square foot house. But apartments, all the neighbors around there who have single-family homes, might as well they move. Because the living that they had till now is going to go down to drain. I guarantee you that. I'm a apartment owner, and I know what goes on. We can't, not everybody's perfect. So by you approving that, you might as well take these people and take them somewhere else, to be honest. I hope you don't even consider this.
Thank you for your comments.
I'm Brian Russell, and we are currently building a house, my wife and I, at 805 North Lapeer Road, which is the vacant lot directly behind, in the budding St. Joe's, and directly behind there you go with that little circle there. A very nice home we're building. It's on 7 acres or so, and I just think there's some things being conflated here at this meeting, and I want to try to separate them out. One of them is there's a consent judgment. Another is there's a zoning change being requested about the use of the land in general. And then number 3, there's the Bretts that are in a tough situation. But I don't think that 2 acres that's not contiguous should really decide the land use of 15 acres. I think that the zoning change is a major change, and whether you go to single family or to multi-level, I don't know. The attorney, Mr. Green, pointed out that in today's market with bricks and mortar suffering, maybe it's not a good use, or even with COVID right now, it's especially hard. These are not considerations for land use. That's very short-term thinking, and this is a long-term decision. You have the point he says that apartments are a notable transition zone from there to single family, but when you look at the single family homes back there on multi-acres on lakefront, with the density that they're proposing and the 3 stories, that's pretty intense. That's a harsh transition at best. It is a fairly high density and a very cramped and unusual lot. I know that the lot is unusual, and that may be, you know, a reason to give a zone variance, but I don't know that it is for a land use change to make it high density multifamily. It just does seem proper. And so I would really consider that these are different issues. There's a consent judgment that's difficult, but that land, it's not like it's never going to sell. They've had 6 or 7 proposals come up in the past 12 years or so. They've, you know, people are looking at it. There's been different proposed. And we, as residents behind there, realize that that's going to be developed. It is M24, there's no doubt. But we were expecting something along a retail, professional, commercial type thing, which is fairly low impact. Not 246 spaces in there for multifamily. So I think that, you know, what I'm going to implore to you is what was pointed out in the beginning. If you're not inclined to do this, why waste the time and charge these people more fees to do more plans? It sounded like it was going to go back to the Planning Commission just to see the engineering and the logistics of it. And well, no, I think don't waste their time. This is not the proper use for that land, and that land will sell for the uses that it's zoned for at some point. There's no doubt in my mind. In fact,
Now that I know that this project has even been proposed, I'm willing to buy it. That they can do that. I just think it's that wrong. Also, I would point out that this is absolutely land that is sitting at the high point above both Stony Lake, or Long Lake across the street, which is the headwaters for the Clinton River, and we have the headwaters right here for Paint Creek and Stony Creek, right on both sides. And you're putting a high-level paved thing there where there's right now a lot of natural habitat. Even commercial uses wouldn't have this kind of destruction of the environment. There is a lot of wildlife there. There's a lot of, there's foxes and all this stuff, but I would just say, why go back to the Planning Commission for an engineering study on this when you don't even know that it's not zoned this way? It probably should not be zoned this way. Why go down that road and give them more ammo? Well, we've said you led us along, we spent money, we did this. Just shut it down now. This is not the proper use for that property. It's a bigger issue.
Thank you. Thanks for your comments. Do we have anybody else from the audience at this point? Okay, so Penny, you had additional questions?
I do. And for clarification purposes, the motion isn't taking it back to the Planning Commission. The motion is asking the Planning and Zoning Department for the purposes of reviewing input from the relevant township departments and the appropriate township consultants. And when we have that information, it will come back to the board to look at all of that information. We don't have anything from our consultants and engineers tonight. We have an attorney opinion letter saying that we could take that route and ask for more information to make an informed decision. And if we don't want this to move forward, we will at that time be able to make a decision based on the information that's provided to us. A couple of things that I want to just clarify. I do think it's too dense. I have to echo what Kim said. It's a 3-story structure. The other thing that's a little bit of concern for me is this subsidized housing. Is it small square footage? What's the minimum square footage there? I just want to make sure that that's not something that's proposed to come in. Where's the funding source to build the development? Is it private funding or is it federal funding? I just want to know where those dollars would be coming from that develop. Could our infrastructure handle that? Water, sewer, is that available? Stormwater management, is that something that we can make a decision on tonight? No. That's why I think it's important to have others who are able to look at this, bring the data back to the board to make a decision. But we're not saying tonight we're in favor of it. We're asking for more information to make an informed decision. And I respect that you're out here tonight. It is a beautiful area. I'm very familiar with it. And you're catching my attention too with your comments.
Thank you. Any other board comments? So, Tammy, put on it, I mean, that this has been your repertoire for the last 10 years.
I have nothing further to add. I think it's been summarized quite nicely. We've heard from multiple people looking at it, but this is the first that has actually come before the board to actually ask to amend it.
See, and I just I don't even know if I am clear completely moving forward on this one. It's like, because I'm not crazy about this project, but I'm open to opening the consent judgment to be able to look at a different zoning, but doesn't necessarily have to be this, because right now it's office professional. So if you look at a different zoning, it could be single-family suburban farms. I mean, that would be something that you would have to open the consent judgment to allow. It could be commercial, it could be industrial, it could be multifamily, it could be townhomes, but whatever you do, you have to allow the opening to be something different than office professional, which is the land use right now. Is that?
Sure. I mean, that's accurate. The only thing I would add to that is that a consent judgment is amended by both sides, right? So the property owners also have a say as to what that zoning, it's a voluntary agreement.
And I don't want to encourage that this is something that I would personally like to see there. So I just want to get that out there now, that's saying, okay, this is what you've presented, and I don't know if it makes a difference for the applicant or the developer that this is not something that I would personally like to see there, something, but not necessarily what's proposed. And I was always concerned if you agree to this, then it would be construed, that's what, that is what is acceptable, so. Penny?
Interesting thing that was mentioned is that the Brett family didn't know that they were going to be encompassed in this consent judgment. How do we undo that for their portion? If they were never a party to it, how could they be in that?
Well, without getting into the legalese of it, they're surrounded by this property. So no matter what happens, that's the reality of it. They're surrounded by the consent judgment property. And I think that that's what their issue is that without having some kind of an overall agreement, and they indicated tonight they've had 6 purchase agreements, and that sounds about right, because there's been a number of developments that have come through. They've always been conditioned upon some kind of an amendment of the consent judgment. But, you know, the reality is that that's, I can't comment on why they can't sell the property, but if you take them at their face value, the reality is they can't sell the property given the restrictions of the consent judgment, and the value that's placed on the surrounding property is in the development of that property. I think that's what they're trying to tell you. So.
No.
I figured that, right.
Okay, so,
Tammy?
oh, sorry, thanks, Tammy.
I've lived and breathed this for a while. If you look at your documents, there's a legal description. And in the legal description, it lists part of their parcel. So I've looked through all the documents and they say who's the party on it, but when we look at the legal description contained within it, it contains that.
That's how they.
I wasn't here, no one here was here, not sure, but the legal description attached to the consent judgment describes part of their property.
Okay. So,
Could we reread
yeah,
the motion
that's what I
before we
would
take a
like to-
vote,
yeah,
please?
Go ahead, Penny.
So the motion moved by me, supported by Flood, is I move to refer the request to amend the Marsa consent judgment dated November 6, 2000, to the Township Planning and Zoning Department for the purposes of receiving input from the relevant township departments and appropriate township consultants, and when satisfied, sufficient information and detail has been provided, bring the proposed consent judgment amendments back to the board for consideration of approval, denial, or further action as deemed appropriate. The normal fees will be provided for the reviews.
I have one question.
You have 4 questions?
I have one question.
Okay.
Should
One
there
is
be
good.
like a time frame for this to, since, or no, or does that matter?
You know, personally, I don't think you're technically bound by this motion. So it's up to the board. I mean, if they don't want to take action on this in the
Right.
short term, it doesn't really matter to us.
Any other questions? I think that we will do a roll call on the motion. Or if we have any other questions on the motion itself? No? Okay.
Steele? Oh,
I do have a
so
question.
sorry.
So if it gets denied, what would be the next step?
Property owners still have the right to come back with a different request. You know, it'll basically be in the position it is right now.
They can come back with something different.
Right, right. Right now, they're asking for multifamily.
So it is, it's really, in essence, is like almost as, but it's not a zoning change, but it's inferred as a zoning change.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, to summarize the developers, what they're saying is that they can't develop it as office or as it's currently zoned under the consent judgment. They'd like to take a look at multifamily.
I'm ready now.
Ready?
Yes.
All right. Steele?
No.
Bernie?
No.
Dalrymple?
Yes.
Flood?
No.
I got to catch up to the nose. Hang on. Urbanowski?
Yes.
Schultz, yes. It's a tie. Motion failed.
Motion fails.
So as a board member, I am open to having this property developed, opening up the consent judgment. I'm just not open to what has been proposed. That's me personally, so. Yes, go, sure.
Just speaking for this particular purchaser and developer, what you're really saying is that they won't buy the property and this deal will be done. Their proposals for a multifamily, I mean, we were listening to your comments, and it's what I invited, like what you were interested with respect to multifamily. But if that's the will of the board, that we don't want multifamily there at all, then of course we wouldn't go back. But we were intending to go back and address these comments and work with your staff to do that. If you're looking for a different use, like single-family use, we won't do that. That's not, I mean, we don't think there's any market for single-family use there. We wouldn't buy it for single-family use, so someone else will do that. My last comment, and I think people maybe don't appreciate it, you know, I looked at the zoning ordinance, and there's a lot of things that can go there in the OP1 district. And I've been doing this for 40 years, and I get all the comments that were raised, and I said that the only way we're going to be able to do this is working with our neighbors and coming up with a concept that hopefully everybody likes. But I don't think anybody appreciates. Right now, no demand for the use. Somebody someday, I mean, I heard about the emergency care or whatever, but I've been doing this for 40 years, and typically when I've come in with a business use next to single-family residential, it's usually the opposite. People are flipping out. I mean, I don't know how this consent judgment got addressed. My guess is it was probably zoned residential at some point in time. And whoever it was, the Marsas or developers 20 years ago wanted to do a business use, Lapeer Road, traffic, all that stuff. And there was probably a lawsuit and it was resolved for that. So I don't even know what the height is. I don't think people appreciate that what could go there could be a sea of parking, business uses that are different and less compatible than a different kind of residential use. So I only point that out just for your future consideration. But if you're not willing, obviously, to consider a multifamily use, then this deal, I'm sure, dies and the property goes back on the market again. But, you know, we've been looking at it for a while, but that's going to be the situation. So, but I appreciate your comments and your consideration. Thank you.
And I don't want to go back and forth, but I mean, a multifamily would also include condos. So there's other things, there are other things. And I don't want to,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that,
Yeah.
I don't know if going to a pre-app, I don't know if that would even be something that you would do as prior to coming back to the board meeting as an option. I don't know if that would be even open.
I don't know that there's any other procedure. Again, it's a consent judgment. We can't move forward with anything that's inconsistent with the consent judgment. Somebody can come in and propose a business use that complies with the zoning ordinance with respect to parking and height. I don't even know what the height is on this zone. I heard what you said about the 3-story residential, but could very well be 3-story business uses there. I don't know. I haven't analyzed that because we're not interested in that. So I just did look at it and I saw the kinds of uses that are there. It's not just professional office. There's some, light industrial, high-tech uses. I mean, there's a variety of uses that are allowed in that district. And they may be far less compatible to residential than a multifamily use. I mean, I get the issue about density and how many people and traffic and things like that. Those are all things to look at. But appreciate your consideration.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay. Couldn't accuse us of not deliberating that, so. Okay, so we are moving on to pending business B, PC 2021 70 Grandview Lapeer Road rezoning request for extension beyond 90 days. Penny.
Okay, so this letter comes from Tammy Grove, our Planning and Zoning Director. The request is to extend the number of days for the participant of PC 2021-70 Grandview Lapeer Road rezoning request of 3120 South Lapeer Road, parcels 09, 26, 151, 019, from Rec 2 to RM 2 and GB to purchase the property beyond the approved 90 days. On November 15, 2021, the Board of Trustees approved the aforementioned case with the following within the motion, and authorized the Township Supervisor to finalize the rezoning within the next 90 days upon the sale of said property being complete, or the rezoning shall terminate unless an extension is approved by the Board of Trustees. The 90 days will be up February 13th, 2022, and the applicant has asked to be placed on the agenda, request an extension. So based on that, it's reasonable to look at the emails that were provided to you. This is basically a formality. So I move to approve the request to extend the 90-day deadline for the applicant to purchase 3120 South Lapeer Road, parcel ID number 09, 26, 151, 019, for an additional 160 days for the following reasons: to allow for time for the sale to be sufficiently drafted and reasonably closed.
Support.
So I have a motion and support. Do we have any questions about this item?
I don't think 160 is not bad. I think that's appropriate.
Does it say 90 in the motion?
Okay with you, Mr. Kelly?
160 days? Yeah, that's, it's up to the board, but that seems reasonable. Either the sale's going to happen or it's not.
Yep.
Right.
So do we have any comments from the audience on this item? If not, we can do a roll call, please. Clerk Schultz.
Bernie?
Yes.
Dalrymple? Yes. Flood?
Yes.
Urbanowski?
Yes.
Schultz? Yes. Steele?
Yes. Okay, which leads us to pending item C, a request for consideration under zoning ordinance number 78, Article 27, Mr. Schmitz. And so,
Go through it.
and then, yes, go with that.
And you've got the map?
Let me see, let me get there, the map. Is the map in the book, or is that an extra map? Oops. Oh, yeah, hold on, bear with me. Here's our map. Okay,
Are we good, Tammy? Or do you want to see something else? Okay. Donnie, ready?
ready.
All right. The request of the Township Board of Trustees under zoning ordinance number 78, Article XXVII, Section 27.01C, 3, Paragraph 2, to permit the combination of non-conforming lots into building sites less than the size requirements of the ordinance. Zoning ordinance number 78, in that paragraph 2, provides that the Township Board of Trustees, at its sole discretion, permit the combination in whole or in part of non-conforming lots of record into building sites less than the size requirements provided by the ordinance. And in a nutshell, I talked with Tammy today, and basically you have two subdivisions there. So the subdivision regulations will not allow you to take a portion of a different subdivision and combine it with the adjacent subdivision that's not the same. So we're basically going to create a legal non-conforming parcel, and I have no clue what motion to make at this point.
I have a question. Where on Brown Road is this located?
By
Tommy's Car Wash.
There's one.
So there's 3 parcels. The furthest parcel to the east is Tommy's Car Wash. The middle parcel has part of Tommy's Car Wash. And then there's the first parcel furthest to the west that was just approved for a mattress operation.
What threw me was the subdivisions there.
They're old platted subdivisions. The third parcel is in one subdivision, and the first 2 are in a different subdivision.
It's old plotted subdivisions
Yes.
back in the day then.
Yep.
Thank you for that clarification.
And I found the motion. So may I make that motion?
Please.
All right, I move to approve it was in the attorney opinions letter, so thank you, Dan Kelly. I move to approve the application to combine nonconforming parcel number 0933-351-020 and part of parcel ID number 0933-352-021 to create parcel 1 as depicted in Exhibit B, consistent with and in the manner described and depicted in application submitted by Boutros Capital Management, contingent upon applicant's voluntary agreement or record deed restrictions on parcel 2, remainder of parcel ID number 0933-351-021, and parcel 3, 0933-376-010, as depicted in Exhibit C, requiring that the parcels remain under single ownership and control, and that both parcels may only be jointly conveyed. Thank you. Remised or granted to any third party. And so how do we ensure that? Are they going to file a deed restriction? Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you. That's my motion.
One correction, it's Exhibit B, yeah.
I said it wrong?
You said C.
You said C.
B.
Yeah.
All right.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and a support. Do we have any questions from the board or comments?
Just Tammy, you're really good at what you do. Thank you.
This is,
And Dan Kelly. We need you guys.
yeah, this is, basically, they're just creating, 2 lots. One's non-conforming, and in the future, we gotta make sure that that non-conforming lot stays with Tommy's Car Wash in perpetuity. So, yeah. So do we have any questions or comments from the applicant that I see is in the audience? Mr. Schmitz, any comments or questions at this time? Are you good? Good, okay. Roll call, please. Ms. Schultz.
Dalrymple?
Yes.
Flood?
Yes.
Urbanowski?
Yes.
Schultz, yes. Steele?
Yes.
And Bernie?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. We are moving right along. We are now pending. You're good. If you guys want to stay, you can, or you can go. Okay, we are on number 8D, which was brought down from consent agenda J. Did I miss something?
No, I thought you said we were moving on to.
Oh, no, yeah, we're moving right along too. So it would be pending 8D, which was Canterbury Village 2022 assembly permit. So there was some additional documents. I don't know if everybody saw them. They were in the extras. Let me get them out. Let's see. Okay. That was the site plan that was not included in the original board packet. So I just wanted to show that. And then Penny, I know you had some concerns, and I had a couple as well, too. And then maybe even Dave could go into what you've looked at, Dave, and what you've done, and so just kind of give us an overview, if you would, and then that would probably help us out a lot.
We are just, this is just to approve the permit application for the events that are listed as 10. I know Jeff's letter mentioned 14. I did ask the applicant to come, and he can speak on any of your concerns. We've had several meetings with them, including the lieutenant and the fire marshal, to set the expectations for the upcoming season. I think we have a good game plan moving forward, and if you have any questions, you can ask Mr. Flynn in the back. But I think we have an understanding and a good plan moving forward to manage these events.
And I do want to thank Dave, because we met with him and asked a million questions. And so I appreciate you getting that information to me, and it's very helpful. And I'm glad that we brought it down. I had a couple questions for you as well. The restrooms, it talks about in the application process that under C, Health and Sanitation, that all permits will be obtained from Oakland County Health Department for the event, and then the large indoor restroom facilities on site. Where are those located?
Those are located right by where we have the Christmas tree, right by the Michigan Main store.
Perfect.
So right in there, there's I think there's 6 stalls in the women's bathroom and 2 in the men's and some urinals.
Fantastic.
We put new dividers up during last season.
Okay, that's helpful. I appreciate it. And then also, Does Woodside know, I know you have a reciprocal easement with them, does Woodside know about these 10 events?
Yes, Woodside does know about all of our events. We met with them. We work well with John. Obviously, we formed the food pantry with them. A lot of the events this year, obviously, we're getting away from that free event, the Easter event. Now it's going to be a paid event, and we're going to ask them to bring canned goods. And all the proceeds raised from there, we're going to buy additional canned goods, so we don't have that traffic issue that we had last year. But no, we work well with them. We work around, obviously, each other's schedule, and they participate in almost all of our events as well.
Fantastic. And there will be a review before each of them. Dave explained to us. Can you just explain that review process and what that looks like?
Yeah, before the event, the applicant has to request an inspection from the building and the fire department. And we'll meet on site prior to the event opening to go over any issues that may arise. And they also will be able to reach out to the sheriff's department if the additional security is needed, as we pointed out in a meeting we had.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've had a good meeting with the lieutenant. We already went over Rib Fest because we know that one's going to be one of the ones that might get a little bit, I don't want to say rowdy, but it's just going to be a little bit bigger crowd. We already took Taco Fest out to Springfield Oaks because we know the size of that. We're really mindful of it. He's explained, let's get these in early, so we are, because obviously it's going to be a lot of overtime for people because it's helping to find people. We also, when we talk to fire, we're an outside company for ambulance that we need on site, paramedics from time to time that we want to hire them to have them on site, just for a better precaution. And I know there was another question in there, I believe it was about the hours. We only really want one event to be a little bit later, and that would be the Halloween, when we go to Halloween. The rest of our events, we want to be done by 10 o'clock. I want to be home. So when we do Rib Fest and all that stuff, I'm sure that the hours will be done. We'll be out of there by 10 o'clock. This is not when I used to run it in downtown Detroit or when I run it in Royal Oak. It's a little bit of a different crowd here. Let's get them in and get them out. I want to be done. I mean, everybody here can know that if you came to the holiday stroll or you came to one of our Halloween strolls, we're trying to flowing people through. We're limited on parking. We wish we had more parking, but we don't. So we kind of develop it, when we do Rib Fest, we're going to do it in time segments, so people will buy their tickets. They'll only come in at certain times. We've increased the Easter thing to 2 days now when we do the helicopter egg drop, so we can spread that out and limit it by charging people a fee to come in, so it just won't be, hey, it's free, let's come on out. So a lot of precautions and extra steps that we're making to make our facility better. We've already talked to Mr. Goodlow about looking at getting with planning and building even additional restrooms out there so we never have to have porta-johns again out there. So a lot of things that we're going to develop in the near future.
I appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
And then I had additional questions. It said that it was 14 events, and then it said highlighted events, and then you listed 10 events. So I wasn't sure which events that, because this isn't like a one application fits 10 events or 14 events, or were you signifying all the events?
I think what we tried doing is just categorizing them, because a lot of them will call it like Easter market, winter market, and they're just our same old market. So we were trying to narrow down which ones would need a little bit more. Like our strolls are the same things where you're just coming through and you're strolling through and you're leaving. So Mr. Goodlow and we sat down with the fire and we were just looking at ones. We don't mind getting permits for all of them, but when we were looking at, we would, I don't want to say bog the office down, but there's a lot of added paperwork that's not needed. I've done this in the past because I used to help produce and run all the events down at the DDP in Detroit. So we would go to city council and city council would say, okay, here's your schedule. Now you work with the building department and they'll determine what permits me. We just wanted to get it out in front of the board here to see what we're doing so everybody knows and we can get that out there. Because before, I've put some stuff out in the city of Detroit. I may have advertised something and then somebody gets upset. Oh, we didn't even know you were going to do that event. So we're trying to get our schedule out for everybody. But by all means, at any time that Mr. Goodlow or the fire or the chief or the lieutenant comes in and says, no, you need to have this, we're more than willing to work with you and do whatever we need to.
Okay, so which is?
And to clarify, Donnie, on the 10.
Was it 14, 10, or all of them?
The 10 that are listed on the events there are the ones that are applicable to this application.
Okay, so
Those are the ones that are they actually meet the intent of the ordinance to have the amount of people there. The rest of the events are pretty much business as usual for Canterbury.
Okay, so it's these events that we're referring to right here. Okay. And then my other question was, the site plan was added to it, and the site plan's not going to change?
The site plan, the one that I looked at there, I think just for Rib Fest and maybe Medieval, we're gonna use the field a little bit. We're gonna still use it for parking, but that red line will probably drop down, come down to the bottom, probably halfway, and we use half parking, half the other. We did spend about $80,000 in running power and utilities to that lot because we got rid of the use of ever have a generator on site again. So we did put power in that whole park and lot. We haven't been able to use it yet. But I think for some of the larger with the ribbers that are coming across from all over the country, we'll have them out into the field where people will come get their food there. But anytime we do any entertainment, it's not in there. I mean, I'm sure that not that I know, but I'm pretty sure we haven't had complaints about noise complaints or anything of that lately. Any bands that we have, we keep it very low key. We put it into the area by where the gazebo is, pointed away from the houses behind it. I am the communication with the neighbors. So they all have my cell phone number. They've called me plenty of times. So we work well with them.
Okay, so we're going to be done at 10? Is that what our ordinance is 10 o'clock? Do we have a noise ordinance? I'm not sure.
I think it says 11, but our goal is to be done. I know it in there, we asked for 11:30. We're mainly looking for that, and if we need to come back and address that as far as that, if we want to carve it out, and we can come back just for the Halloween thing to get a little bit extension of time on the Halloween nights.
And then every time you have one of the events, the inspector's going to go out and look, you're going to go out and look and make sure that that tent is set up the way that it's supposed to, and that we're in safety.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. And
So-
the noise ordinance goes to 10:30, I believe.
Okay, so I think we should be in line with, and the only other thing is that the extra parking is going to be used, Yates parking as well for that 1,396 spaces.
Yes, we use the whole facility there, and as well that we will work out from time to time agreements with the school and off-site that we take all our vendors down and bring them back. So the vendors aren't parked there, so we're not worried about taking that up.
And so the Yates is aware of all the.
Yates is very much aware of it. They're a good asset to our property.
Yep, okay. So I just want to make sure we're safe and then everybody's aware, because we want you to succeed, but we want everybody else to be happy with you succeeding as well. And there's a lot of pieces, between the township, the police, the fire, the neighbors.
That's why we're starting in
So
January.
we're trying to get everybody online in the same spot, so, you're going to include any of those things, just the time.
I had one question.
Go ahead,
There are
Tam.
10 events that, I'll let you make up. Explain that again, because.
10 events that are really considered assemblies.
Okay.
With the market that they have, you really can't consider that assembly because that's people,
Yeah.
this is usually like a stroll. These are actual events that they're promoting pretty significantly and selling tickets to and having significant more people than those other ones.
Is the Bloody Valentine not listed on that? Because that's a ticketed event. I'm only saying that because I was like, what is this? And I clicked on it.
Yeah, it's inside.
I can answer on that. The Bloody Valentine is enclosed all in the structure, so it doesn't really pertain because they did get a building permit for that use.
So last year, we did 3 of the rooms inside the castle as haunted houses and went through and got all new fire alarms, adjusted the sprinklers, did notification through the rest of the castle. Everything that we needed to do, we worked well with Dave, we worked well with Mr. Williams, we worked all the departments that had Guardian out there and everything. So one of the rooms, since then, we've taken that haunted house out, but we still just maintain 2 because we still are running some weddings there and some other banquets. So that is still there. So we're just basically opening it up for Valentine's Day. And I think right now we have 92 tickets sold. So we tried it. Who knows? Maybe we'll have 200-300 people. Just like the other day, we did Drag Queen Bingo, which we sold it out in the nighttime. We put an afternoon session, sold that out. So it was a good experience for that. And we're just going to do some murder mysteries and things inside the castle. We were just letting everybody know all of our, even though there's a bunch of them inside the castle on that list.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I'll make the motion to approve the assembly permit application for the 10 listed Canterbury Village events 2022 located at 2325 Joslin Road, and to have Woodside and Yates authorize reciprocation of parking, and the site drawing that is attached to be included as part of the application, and that the building inspector to inspect each event prior to the event as listed, and that the time to be completed at 10:30 PM.
Support. Can I get a copy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion and a support. Do we have any questions on the motion? Questions on the motion?
Oh, no, they sound, thank you.
Okay, comments from the audience? They have left. Okay, roll call, Penny.
Schultz, yes. Steele?
Yes.
Bernie?
Yes.
Dalrymple?
Yes.
Flood?
Yes.
Urbanowski?
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you
Thank
for
you,
allowing,
sir.
yes, thank you for hanging out with us tonight.
Dave.
Okay.
I just don't know why the bank doesn't just divide it up into certain parcels and then sell it that way. The bank came to you guys and said,
I mean, go call them up. That's a great idea. Okay.
you want to sell the property, that's what you do.
Okay, we are now number 9, reports. We have our police and fire report.
I move to receive and file the police and fire report with comment.
Go, oh, support by Flood.
All right.
Sorry.
Real quick, the last 2 weeks, the sheriff's department has been on 644 calls. The fire department year-to-date is 312 calls. Want to go back to the sheriff's department and go over very quickly their year-end for 2021. So briefly, in 2021, there's 19,764 calls for service. As a frame of reference, in 2017, there was 17,490. It's steadily gone up every single year, with the exception of 2020, which we saw 21,589 calls. Due to the inflated numbers with the initial concerns of COVID-19, receiving numerous complaints from citizens who are reporting businesses and neighbors violating the COVID rules, or reports of COVID exposure added to these increased numbers. Out of those 764 calls, there's 98 different types of incidents. The top 5 were extra patrol at 7,306, assisting the fire department with 2,603, traffic stops 1,470, alarms 1,058, and assisted citizens 655. There's 956 vehicle accidents in 2021. This obviously report is in the board book, so you can see. But I just wanted a high-level look at that and thank the lieutenant for bringing this to our attention and putting this report together. And that is it for me.
Awesome. So we have, do you have a comment, Mr. Ophir? Lieutenant, I'm sorry? No? Okay. Motion to receive and file. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. We are on now to board member comment.
Public comment.
Public comment, see? Would you like to make a public comment now, Mr. Pfeiffer?
One fell off by the property.
Thank you. Mr. Dewey? No, good. Okay, our public comment is closed. Now we are up for board member comment, and I will start with Miss Dalrymple.
Sorry, we're like, what is that sound all of a sudden? All right, I just want to say thank you to Ian from ONTV for coming to make the presentation. The food drive is always a great one to be able to participate in. And like they said, if you can donate some funds, that would be great to help all of our community. Again, today I had another resident that reached out that needed some help with food, so we got them taken care of today. And Matt did actually go with me to drop that off. So we continue to feed people all the time, whether they message us or they go to the pantry at Canterbury, or they still come in line on Monday mornings to the food truck. We still continue to feed anybody who asks here in Orion. So I'm very thankful to continue to do that. And that's all I got tonight.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Urbanowski?
I just wanted to stress the ONTV, Oxford Orion Fish Food Pantry fundraiser and food gathering. It's always a good time. I participated in it. I think a lot of people here. Matt and I did a live segment, totally professional live segment. a couple years ago. We knocked it out of the park. It's a lot of fun, actually. If you go in there, they love to, get you on camera. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to say was it was a really nice open house the other day. And I wanted to thank everyone for coming, first of all, but then I also wanted to thank everyone who works here, who stayed, a little bit later, and we're doing tours and helping with food in the, in the community room here. It was really nice to see a lot of smiling faces and some staff pride, and this is my space. I thought that was pretty cool. That's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Schultz?
I see Shar and Skip Follis have stayed. Thank you both. We're glad you're here. We've got Dan Dewey and also Matt Pfeiffer here that stuck it out to the end. Our board meetings are always interesting. We promise if you come back, we'll have another interesting board meeting for you. Also, the residents that came out tonight, I think it's really important to get their input early on. That was beneficial to us. The open house was phenomenal. It was emotional. It was exciting. We had a lot of people from all walks in the community come out and support this, and we were so grateful to have the place packed. There were tours going on everywhere. Food was being eaten. Everyone was celebrating along with us. It was very special, and I know we'll have more gatherings like that here. So thank you, everybody who came out. Also, Chris Barnett would be very proud of you, Donnie. You did a phenomenal job tonight. Thank you very much, and he'll be back at our next board meeting. The precinct's changing. I'm very thankful for the election commissioners, Brian Burney and Mike Flood. I know that we run everything past them as it relates to elections. It's good to have that oversight. They make the recommendations for changes with our elections in any way, or the recommendations of who will work, who will be assigned at each precinct. But this is the first step in the 2022 elections. So voters can see I expect to get your new ID card within a month or two. It's a long process, and we're in line with a lot of other municipal clerks to get those printed. So we're hopeful to get those to you. I would say by the 1st of April, you should have that in your mailbox. The reason that we moved out of those precincts was the schools asked us to relocate. We agreed. It's a good step for them to have us move from the school locations into other precincts, and I'm really thankful that everybody got on board. Cool thing that'll happen in the village, the precinct will be located at their municipal building, and a lot of the voters will be able to walk to their precinct. So I think that'll be pretty special. They were so excited to get that move. Thank you, all of our hosts of our 15 precincts, and we will have the absent voter counting board right here in this boardroom. That'll be its permanent location. This is set up very well. We will have workers in here. You can see what's going on. It'll be super transparent, but it is a sequestered board, and that means once you're here, you have to stay put for the duration. Also, we'll be using for the voters, like a precinct, the Dragon Community Room. You won't be crammed in my hallway any longer at a tiny voting booth. You'll have area to spread out, and it really is going to be a phenomenal setup. So I'm looking forward to that August primary election. That's about it.
Thank you, Ms. Schultz. You're up.
I was lost for words.
I can skip you.
No, I got something important to say. I agree with everything that was said. The open house was amazing. This room here was standing room only. They were lined around the walls. The hit, and I'm surprised Kim didn't mention this, the hit of the whole thing was when Sheriff Mike Bouchard brought the comfort dog Max out. The most darling little, Cocker Spaniel?
I think it's a Cavalier King Charles.
Anyway, he got the big brown eye.
So
It was
cute.
just beautiful. And I thought our trustee was going to kidnap her.
I tried.
Yeah, but anyway, and also support the Oxford Orion Fish on TV Drive. That's a great venue. Lastly, I received notice that the no-haz collection events and times have been posted now on the Oakland County website. You can go to nohaz.com, get that information. There'll be 4 collections again this year, and Orion Township will be having theirs that Saturday, July 23rd at Kensington Church, and we sure appreciate Kensington letting us have that there. It was very successful last year. So if you want any more further update on that, go to nohas.com, and it'll be all on there. And we'll be getting our brochures and pamphlets here eventually, and we'll get those all distributed throughout the township and the village and the landfill, and the library. We'll get all out to them. That's it. Thank you. Oh, Donnie, thank you for doing a great job.
Oh, thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Mr. Bernie?
Nothing from me tonight. All set.
Okay. So I just have two quick comments. I would like to thank everybody that's put together and sponsored the Optimus golf outing, lake outside golf outing. And my pictures here probably shouldn't be shared with the public. But I know Matt was there, and Julie was there, and Mr. Kelly was there.
Now you
and-
got to show them.
let's see if I can get them up there that fast. But anyways, I think it was very successful, and it's for their international exchange program. I think that that's what we used the funds for, and I think that they were sold out this year. And it was a beautiful day on Saturday to be out on and about Lake Orion, downtown Lake Orion. So thank you for all those who participated. And I just want to make a mention that next week is tax day, and the last day to pay your taxes without a penalty is Valentine's Day. Isn't that sweet? Which is February 14th. And we're open here between 8:30 and 4:30. And we do have a drop box off in the front that you are welcome to drop your taxes off without having to come in. But if you do come and visit and see our brand-new building. So that's my last comment. And with that, I would like to have anybody make a motion to
Adjourn.
Okay.
Support.
So Ms. Schultz made a motion to adjourn at 8:56 with Bernie as a support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?